Hey, everybody. Welcome to Battleground. So if you're an American and you've been going to the grocery store and tracking the costs of those groceries, you've likely noticed the skyrocketing cost of eggs and probably wondering what the heck is going on. So today we've got, of course, legendary political reporter, also has legendary hair. Her name is Salena Zito. She's all over the place, and I'm sure you've seen her columns in the Washington Examiner and in the New York Post from her dispatches from the middle of somewhere. And we created this segment called Boots on the Ground because, well, Selena's boots on the ground just about everywhere. Yeah. You've got this great column out where you did a deep dive on the skyrocketing cost of eggs, and the column is called "Avian Flu is Crushing Our Farmers." Yeah. So what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, it's really, all of us are feeling the pinch. It's really, there's very few things that we make, whether we're baking or cooking or just making our kids eggs in the morning or waffles or pancakes, whatever. Eggs are almost in everything. It's an American staple. Americans love their eggs, and the prices are insane. They're upwards of $7 a dozen. I've seen all the way up to $10 a dozen. When some families go through 2 dozen a week and they're used to paying under $2 for a dozen, that just sort of adds to the economic stress that people are feeling. However, I think it's important that we understand that we are not the only ones really going through a very hard time. The poultry farmers and in this country, there's thousands of them in Pennsylvania alone, let alone across the country, are going through an even worse economic, but also a very emotional impact with this, with what's causing this, and that is the avian flu. We haven't seen an avian flu outbreak in the manner that we saw since 2014, and it wasn't even as bad as it is today. The flu tends to spike and peak between March and September, and it kills millions and millions of flocks of poultry. We're also talking about turkeys, not just chickens, but it also impacts eagles and hawks. And what a farmer has to go through to protect their flock is unbelievable. They have to spend several times a day dressing in a biohazard suit, testing all of their birds, testing the flocks, wiping down their walls, wiping down their stalls, not letting their birds out. And then there's a huge cost and time sort of, wrapped into that. But then you add in the isolation that it causes, because this flu can come into your facility, come into your farm, even from a speck on a tread of a tire of your Amazon deliverer, or the people that are bringing your fertilizer, or the people that are picking up your kids from school on the school buses. They have missed church, they have missed gatherings because they're afraid to go out, and so the impact isn't just economical, it's also emotional.
Yeah, what I find sort of unbelievable is that the farmers are taking all of these precautions, all the things that you just said, wearing biohazard suits, disinfecting all of their equipment. It's tedious, it's costly, it just takes a long time, and it has an unbelievable emotional toll on the farmers as well, because they have to isolate themselves from all the things that they love in society, their community, their church, wherever it is that they gather. And so this problem, obviously inflation is a part of it. Reckless government spending is a part of it. It just costs more to do everything, to farm, to produce the eggs, the diesel in the trucks to get the eggs to the grocery store. All of those costs are passed off on the consumer, and that hurts our pocketbook as Americans. And believe me when I tell you, I got 5 kids. We go through a lot of eggs, and it gets costly really, really fast.
Yeah.
But the emotional toll that this has taken on our farmers, and to me, this is something that I think has not been talked about, not even enough, but not even at all throughout this crisis. And I think most Americans are just content to blame, what's happening on inflation or reckless government spending. But the problem is more complicated than that. You talked about avian flu, but the part and parcel with dealing with the avian flu is how our farmers are struggling. And you mentioned to me, I think in a conversation last week, or maybe it was this week, about how after combat veterans, the next demographic or profession in this country with the second highest suicide rate in the country are our farmers.
Farmers and ranchers. They're 2 times more likely to commit suicide than any other occupation outside of a military veteran.
It's crazy to me, Salena.
And it's not something they talk about. Suicide is not something you talk about in the farming community. And you're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be the pillar of the community. You're supposed to be the provider of food for the nation. So it's not something that's ever spoken about. And oftentimes there are suicides that don't even get counted. Farmer rolled over on their tractor. There are plenty of farmers that I've talked to that have said that would have never happened with that farmer. That farmer is too good to be, too skilled to have done that, right? So that question lingers. And I think that we're not even thinking about how we as consumers are contributing to the spread of the avian flu comes from geese flying over our head in their migrating patterns.
Look, Salena, that's what shocked me through all of this, all of the rigorous steps that farmers take to protect their flock, right? But how do you protect your flock from 60,000 Canadian geese that fly over and basically contaminate the flock? And what's seriously crazy about this is just how contagious the avian flu is. You mentioned a UPS driver delivering a package to my home, and if I had chickens that provided my family with eggs, and maybe the UPS driver steps in and droppings, drives to a poultry farm next with a flock, the droppings from his shoe can contaminate that flock, and once one bird is infected, the entire flock could be wiped out. And we're seeing farmers have to euthanize and kill millions of these chickens, which not only has adds another layer to that emotional toll, but it's part of the reason why eggs are rising in cost so rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are doing it unknowingly. You're your bird feeder. You go to, there's whole sections at Tractor Supply and Walmart where you can get everything you ever needed to raise chickens, including the little chicks. Well, there's no regulation. And I know, I'm in the same camp about how we feel about regulations on families having chickens. However, they're not under the same scrutiny. They're not following the same procedures that farmers are. And there's a wild chance that they could be spreading the disease unknowingly as well. And it's just devastating for these farmers. I will say that the state of Pennsylvania, the Ag Department, has done an incredible job. They've really educated the farmers. They've provided whatever they need in terms of trying to keep their farms self-contained. Obviously, after we've talked about that, it's almost impossible to think about trying to contain it. Right. But I think that we need to educate the public better about how we cannot contribute to it as well until this crisis is over. This crisis began in Europe. And if you look at the migrating, I've become a real expert on migrating birds, but who knew, right? But the migration starts in Europe, goes over across Canada, and then comes down through the United States and into South America. And they're in their third worst year of having it, and those birds are coming again. Come April, we are very highly at risk. I don't know what can stop it from us having a third year of a highly contagious avian influenza.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. And Salena, would so appreciate your reporting on it because, frankly, no one's talking about it. And I think there is an educational component that has to come with this, teaching the public about, what the heck is actually going on, things that affect their life every day. So awesome report on that. Seriously, it was incredible.
It was really, as I was doing all the research for this story, right, I was stunned at how no one else has written that story. And I don't mean that from an ego point of view. Of my natural curiosity is like, okay, the prices are high. Okay, why? Inflation, absolutely. However, this is bigger than any other part of our nutrition. Why is this one bigger? You got to be curious enough to find out the whole story as opposed to only part of the story.
Yeah, well, that's why we love you. That's why I'm going to keep talking to you as much as humanly possible, as much as you'll have me. So I want to shift gears for a second and talk about the Tale of Three Counties. You had a piece. Where was that piece placed? Was it in the Post-Gazette?
It's in the Post-Gazette. If people want to check out all of my reporting, they can go to SalenaZito.com, SalenaZito. Sign up for the emails. They're free, they're fun, and they're not fattening. I'm just gonna push that.
Do what she tells you to do, people.
Yes, I'm an Italian grandma.
Okay, so what the hell is going on with the Pennsylvania Republican Party? Reading that article, it looks like there is a fracturing that's going on in Republican committees, especially in Western Pennsylvania. And if you pay attention to Pennsylvania politics at all, you know that Western Pennsylvania is the Republican wall. Republicans that run statewide in the state of Pennsylvania have a tremendous advantage if they're from the West. So my question to you is what we're seeing happening in these committees normal?
Yes, it is normal. However, it is at a level that I have never seen before, but that doesn't mean it won't all come back together. I must have done a good enough job because the New York Times is now following me in Butler County and following up on that story.
So so what are the counties? So break down the county. We got Washington County, we got Butler County, and we have Allegheny County. So most people don't know this, but Allegheny County is the most populous Republican county in the state, even though it's a heavily Democrat county. Right. In a general election, more Republicans live in Allegheny County than anywhere else in the state of Pennsylvania. Then you have Washington, which is a Republican stronghold, and Butler County, which is also strong for Republicans. And those fracturing, maybe fracturing is too strong of a word, Salena, but there is
no, it's not
very intense internal debate. It isn't.
Yeah,
okay.
there is fracturing. I mean, look, not every generation, every couple years there's a movement. And within any political party, it's not just the Republicans, but let's just stick with the Republicans. 10 years ago, it was the Tea Party, and before the Tea Party was Pat Toomey, and there wasn't really a movement. This is 2004. He ran in a primary against Arlen Specter, almost beat Arlen Specter. And when I say almost, I mean like by 1,000 votes he came in, and in a Republican primary. And then those are hints that tell you that a party and a coalition is shifting. And 4 years or 6 years later, Toomey wins. He wins the primary. He wins the general election. He wins again in 2016. It is interesting to me because Pat Toomey hasn't changed, but there are portions of the party that say, I loved Pat Toomey in 2004. I couldn't have voted for him in a primary last year. And because of that, you have to sit back and say, well, has Pat Toomey changed? Not really. Pat Toomey is the same guy he's always been. It's the coalitions that change. We move our coalitions in both parties move a couple inches, sort of like how an earthquake shifts the ground, and every cycle, every year, and so the problem is a lot of these fractions, and I'm going to call them the patriot groups, who, because most of them identify themselves as like the patriot group. The problem is that they start to demand litmus tests. You can't be part of the party if you support this. And you can't be part of the party if you support that. And you're not conservative enough if you did this. What you end up doing is boxing out all the people that actually do the hard work, the volunteering, and the party building that make a party viable in a general election.
Well, and Salena, let me just tell you, like, if this were deep red, I don't know, Alabama, Mississippi, a state that's R plus 30.
Right.
And I don't know the political makeup of those states. I'm just a deep red state.
Right.
Maybe what you were talking about isn't that big of a deal.
Right.
But in a state like Pennsylvania, where Republicans already have the deck stacked against us, in other words, we are at a significant registration deficit. In other words, what that means is that Republicans can't win in this state statewide with Republican support alone. You have to build a coalition.
Exactly.
You need at least 50%, 60% of independents coming your way. You need moderate blue collar Democrats coming your way as well. So litmus tests in a state like Pennsylvania, where you're pushing conservatives, good, strong conservatives to the margins, is not good. The party itself needs to be united, especially moving into a critical 2024 cycle. Yeah.
So Butler County is my favorite hot mess.
Oh, I know all about Butler County.
I know you. There was, and I'm going to try to explain it in the most economy of words, right? There was the established Butler County party that was sanctioned by the state party. It's been around for a gazillion years. Then there was this faction that decided that they were going to be the Butler County. They wanted the power. They didn't get the power, so what did they do? They incorporated the Butler County Establishment Party's name legally. The state party then was like, which is so weak and so ineffective and so unable to be able to tie their own shoes. They turn around and give it to this new party who stole the name. Then there was a third part who joined in with the second part to oust the original party, and then they all get together. They have this new party, and then they're now fighting.
Yeah,
and so
it's a mess.
The original party people said, "Y'all know what? We're just going to go over here and be normal and do what we're supposed to do, which is recruit good candidates, a mail-in ballot program, and register party and register voters, and y'all can figure out your little soap opera." And then as I was driving home from Butler, I found this fourth faction that I forget I think they called themselves the Impassioned Republicans of Butler County. I can't quite remember. So at the end of the day, it's all going to come together. But right now, it's like watching as the world turns.
I think it's going to come together too. I certainly hope so. We need to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. As a Republican, we have to. It's a zero-sum game for us. Last thing I'll say, because I don't want to keep you too long, but Democrats have these problems too, especially in Western Pennsylvania, where you have a very strong coalition of blue-collar Democrats, moderate Democrats, working-class Democrats, union Democrats, who oftentimes find themselves up against radical socialist progressives, right?
Right.
So Democrats have their share of chaos as well.
Yeah. No, by the way, Republicans don't have they're not the only ones. The Democrats are having their own hot mess going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, as always, Salena, Thank you for dropping by and blessing us with your expertise from your dispatches from the middle of somewhere. You're the best. We love you, and keep up the great work.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to shameless plug again, SelenaZito.com. Sign up for the emails, free, fun, not fattening. And I look forward to next week.
There you go. There you go. Thanks, Selena. Talk to you soon.